Have you ever thought about building a team, but you're afraid to because you're not sure if you'd actually be a good leader? Or maybe you already have a team, but you struggle to pull the best out of them and you wonder if you're even capable of managing people at all. If you've ever felt like this, I am going to suggest that you lean in for this episode's CEO because my good friend and returning guest, Ashley Ebert, is on today's show, and she is talking all about the strengths and weaknesses of your natural leadership style, how to understand what your leadership style is, and how to really play to your strengths and to really work on those weaknesses that just naturally come with the different leadership styles. Plus, if you stick around to the end, Ashley is giving us an exclusive invitation to her brand new free training on the #1 secret on how to build a high performance team. You're listening to the Wedding Pro CEO podcast. I help wedding pros to ditch the overwhelm and to create profit. My name is Brandee Gaar, and I've been a business coach since 2019. To date, I've helped over 1,000 wedding pros to scale their wedding business and step into the role of CEO. My mission is simple: to show you how to build profit in your wedding business without the side helping of burnout, and to actually start paying yourself a salary so you can love your business and your life. So if you're ready to learn how to be a great leader, you are in the right place. Let's dig in. Ashley, I am so excited to have you back on the show, returning guest, and such a good friend to me and really to the industry, and just how passionate you are about teaching and helping wedding pros to, stop being a solopreneur and build a business that's bigger than them and get their time freedom back and just all things team. So thanks for being back on the show.
I was going to say, can't get rid of me. I've been here like 12 times. And I keep coming back. Because I love talking about teams, and I love everything that you do on this podcast. Obviously, I'm such a cheerleader for you and the summit. Yes. So I'm happy to be here.
Today, we're going to talk a lot about a totally new topic that I'm obsessed with, and I cannot wait to dig all into it. But before we do, if anybody has not learned from you before or heard a podcast episode with you, can you just give them a brief overview of the Abundance Group and Ashley Ebert and what you do?
Yeah, for those of you that don't know my story, I own 2 businesses. The first is the Simply Elegant Group. We're actually one of the largest wedding planning companies in the country. We do about 300 weddings a year, hopefully 350 next year. 365 is actually like I'm going to be so excited. Like 1 per day.
I love it. That's cool.
Yeah. And so I've been in the industry for about 15 years, built that business. And honestly, I've built my team. My dad has been alongside me through that whole journey. He is a leadership and team development coach for Fortune 500 companies. So companies just a smidge bigger than mine. Best Buy, Bell, Marriott, like these huge brands. The cool thing is a lot of the leadership training and the team development stuff, it's all the same. Solopreneur, huge 10,000 person company. The principles are the same. So we actually implemented that at Simply Elegant and then went, hey, that was great. And this can really be a valuable thing to bring over to the creative community. So that's where the Abundance Group came from. We teach leadership and team development, and we've had hundreds of students through our program, and it is a joy of mine. Almost every day we get a DM from a student of like, I broke this ceiling I thought I had. I hired this new team member. We won this award. I'm starting a new market. We're rebranding, and that growth is something that just lights me up and gets me out of bed in the morning. So that's it. Those are the 2 brands that I own. And again, I think knowing Simply Elegant, it's like I don't just teach it. I'm like in the trenches every day. Right. Building a team and leading. Yeah.
I think that's a really big deal. I really do. The market has been so crazy over the last 3+ years. And I think it's really helpful that, you're still in the market, I'm still in the market, learning and dealing with this with the wedding pros that we're teaching, kind of how to do it. And, you're still running a large team. So it's not like you're like, this once worked for me, like you're in it, you're dealing with it.
And I'm sure, Brandee, you feel this way too. Like, I feel like the industry has really changed over the last 5 years.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
And so to not be in it, it's like you wouldn't necessarily be able to understand the nuances of, and on my end, the workforce is changing. So expectations of this generation are different than they were when I first started. So, but yeah, I think living it and doing it and being in it is so crucial. And honestly, it just, I think it builds connection, because it's like I can be real frustrated and really like excited because I'm literally walking it too. So I agree wholeheartedly.
100%. So, Ash, we have talked several times on this show about building teams and things like that. Today, we're obviously still going to be talking about teams, but we are taking a little bit of a spin on it because back in February, you presented to our coaches group a quiz or a training that you were doing in how to figure out our leadership style. And immediately we were all like, I could just see the room. There was 5 of us, and we were all like, what are you? I think you're this. What are you? No, that doesn't sound like you, like going back and forth. And it just caused so much great discussion. And not only that, but then I was like, Ashley, you have to teach us at my summit. And it was crazy to see how obsessed everybody was.
And
with
me,
these.
I'm very obsessed with this content.
I mean,
Yeah.
but it's so like magnetic, and I think it's like at the core of who you are, like your makeup, your DNA, right? Is this leadership style. And so today we're going to be talking a lot about that. Before we dig completely into it, can you tell everybody what leadership styles are and kind of why you started teaching this or why you love it?
Yeah. So it's one of those things I innately kind of understood this about other people. And my dad would ask me, like, how do you understand how to connect with people from all different walks of life? And I was like, I don't, it is innate. And I wanted to figure out why, because I wanted to be able to articulate and teach it to other people. And so what I found was when I did the research, and again, I'm a big nerd. If you know me, I just am. And I want data. I want reasoning behind kind of when I teach something. I want it to be really meaty and really valuable. So I went on like a 2.5 year journey of learning about personality styles. And what I found was almost all personality assessments come down to a 4-quadrant model. Myers-Briggs does, the DISC definitely does, Enneagram does to some degree. We're all, measuring the same thing. And really that's extroversion, introversion, and people-oriented or task-oriented. It's kind of measuring, which one of those 2 things are you? And then, right, there's 4 possibilities. And from that, when you think about it kind of like a 4-quadrant model, you're a people-oriented extrovert. Okay. We call them optimistic connectors or yellows because they're bright, shiny, and magnetic, and everyone loves. You can point a yellow out in a room in like 1 second.
My sales manager is a yellow, 100%.
That is the perfect person to be in a sales position. So is mine. My managing director who does our sales, she is a yellow. So smart. Yep. Because why? Well, they connect. It's an incredible skill set to connect, to make the person that they're talking to feel like the most important person in the room and feel heard. Again, because they're extroverted, so they're going to build conversation, and they're so people-oriented that, they're really going to be focused on building that relationship. So the first of the 4 leadership styles is an optimistic connector. And again, Brandee, to your point, sales positions, these are people that you want to help sell your brand, to get the word out there about the brand experience. That's the perfect type of person to be doing that. Next would be a task-oriented extrovert. These are the powerful, achievement-oriented boss, and they are reds. As Brandee wears the color, Brandee is a red, which also I love. You'll find that a lot of the times when you roll through the color palette, your brand mirrors who you are. I've seen this with like 5 or 6 of my students, their leadership style, like their brand is heavily dominant in that color. So color theory is also kind of woven into this, which is fascinating.
That's interesting. Just to pause for 1 second would be that it's so interesting that you said that, because I remember Carrie Love Designs did my brand. Yeah. And when they pushed me to put red in my brand, I was like, I've never worn red a day in my life. I literally hate that color. I'm now putting it in my brand. Yeah. And they were like, your brand right now, it was like baby pink and like a weird blue. And they were like, it has no confidence in it whatsoever. And I'm like, oh. And so they start showing me all the color theory behind red. And now clearly I'm obsessed with it. I wear red all the time.
Because it represents, it tells a story. Yeah. It tells a story. Yeah. And again, like yellows, that's sunshine. Like, what do you do on a bright, shiny, sunny day? You walk outside and you go like this. That's what you do to a yellow. Like, oh my gosh, I just want to
So
like be
true.
around you. Um,
Yeah.
and so there is a lot of, I think, color theory nuance in it,
I
which
love
I
that.
love. But the reds, or again, the task-oriented extroverts, they are what our leadership style name for that is a driven trailblazer. Driven, again, I find a lot of entrepreneurs, because it's like, either I didn't get what I want in my W-2 work, or like, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. That's a very like a red thing. And again, I think the drivenness
Okay.
is powerful when it comes to leadership, because someone's got to give the direction. Someone has to influence, be the captain of the ship. We got to follow and really be behind someone that we know and trust. So again, a task-oriented extrovert is a driven trailblazer, or again, a red. We'll talk about the colors too on all of them, which is really fascinating. The third is a thoughtful developer. They are a task-oriented introvert. So
Okay.
they are thoughts and feelings that they have, they're internalized. So they stay, they're very thoughtful, they're very pensive. A lot of blues will need space to think through and kind of analyze and to figure out the best course of action. Now, I'm a yellow, so I'm kind of across the board from blues. Blues to me are magical, because I don't do this, and I don't understand how people do it.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
blues can almost, to me, like predict the future,
Yeah.
because they're so thoughtful, they're so rational, and they can put things in order that they can say, in 6 months from now, I think this is going to be the problem, and they're
Yeah.
probably right. It is wild. And I'm like, I don't understand. I'm hydroplaning over everything, because I'm like,
Yeah.
let's go, that's like, and so again, the thoughtful developer,
Yeah.
a task oriented introvert, they are a great leader, but they are, again, they connect really well, because you
Mhm.
feel so important, because they're going to listen and they're going to retain all that information that you tell them. So
Okay.
they are a blue. If I didn't say that, they are blue in kind of the color palette.
I think that's
Same.
what my right-hand person is,
Yeah.
Allison. I think she's a blue. Like, she's
Yeah.
really not
We
much of a
definitely
people
figured out she was
person.
blue. Yeah.
Yeah, and but she's like so loyal to me, you know,
Hmm.
and
Oh yeah.
so
Yeah.
has so much she's very task oriented. She's like,
Yeah.
exactly, predict the future half the time. And I'm like, how
Yeah.
are you doing that?
You're like, I don't understand. You got a
Right.
magic wand. And the blue, for me, it almost symbolizes, and I think of like an ocean, a really deep blue ocean, that depth and
Yeah.
yeah. So again, I love all of this. The fourth and final
Okay.
leadership style is a compassionate influencer, and they are a
Okay.
green. They are an introverted, people oriented, which everybody's like, I'm an introverted extrovert. I'm like, no, you're probably just a compassionate influencer, because
Okay.
again, extroversion, introversion, how we're talking about it. Introversion is thoughts and feelings are internalized. So, they go inwards, and they're people oriented. So they care about the relationship. They're going to lean into building that relationship more than they're going to lean into like checking a box off their checklist and getting stuff
Right.
done. And another, I think, really fascinating thing about all of this is, because we were talking about at the summit, Brandee, that we thought Ira was a green and Brandy's a red. And what you'll see is, oftentimes in relationships, we seek out the person kind of that's across from us, because I think it's that feeling of like, they have strengths and weaknesses that are complementary to mine. And I think
Hmm.
that's why it makes couples so powerful when you think about
Yes.
that. Yeah, it's just a really fascinating thing. So just trying to wrap everything up again, kind of this 4-quadrant model: extroversion, introversion, task oriented, people oriented. First style, a yellow, optimistic connector. Second style, a red, driven trailblazer. Third, thoughtful developer. They are
Hmm.
blue. And then fourth and final is the compassionate influencer, and they are green. Again, we use those leadership styles. The reason why that's helpful to, one, know your own,
Yeah.
but also understanding as a leader the things I'm really good at and how I can influence positively, and moving more towards doing that
Hmm.
than the weaknesses, and kind of
Mm.
positioning ourselves away from doing those things within our team.
Yeah.
So again, leadership style is super powerful. And the thing I love about it, Brandee, is once you know it, you can't unknow it. You
Yeah.
see it everywhere, and it
Yeah.
kind of changes, it kind of blows your mind, and it changes how you show up in life. And I love that so much.
It's so it really is so interesting. And if anybody's watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening and you're like, wait a second, I want to understand this quadrant model that she's talking about, pop over and watch this on our YouTube channel, because we're going to put this slide in and we'll show you exactly what Ashley's talking about with the 4 quadrant model. Because I think that that's really important to understand. One of the questions that I had, Ashley, is can you be 2 colors? Because like I'm not 2 colors.
I'm
I'm
not, I'm just a
90.
royal red.
I'm like
Um,
99% red.
yeah, which is
um,
great. I mean, that's a great thing.
I mean, but I'll go to the second part of that question in a second, which we'll talk about. But can you be 2 colors?
Yes. You almost always have a dominant and a
Okay.
secondary. So,
Okay.
dominant for me, actually, kind of, I'm pretty 50-50 between yellow and red.
Okay.
So I'll kind of, I will move between them pretty easily. Some people are kind of, 75-25. Some people are 99% 1%, like you say. Like, so it really depends.
Yeah.
And again, I think, obviously I nerd out. I do a huge training on this in our intensive. It's 90 minutes. And all of
Yeah.
this, I want to say, is based on Kathleen Eidelman's work
Okay.
on temperaments, on all this color theory. And I honestly, when we go through it, you're just changed. Like, this is the stuff. When Dad came to me and he was like, Ash, how do you do this? I was like, I just do it, and I want to figure out how to articulate it to other people,
Yeah.
because it is so powerful. I don't know how to, I'm not a mechanic. I don't even there's so many things I do not know how to do. The list is exhaustive.
Right.
But when it comes to connecting with people and showing kindness to people,
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I've always had. I joked with my dad. I was the biggest cheerleader in most school spirit, but I wasn't a cheerleader, which is funny, in high school, because I love making people feel
Yeah.
important, and I
Yeah.
love making people feel cared for.
Mm-hmm.
And this was kind of like, again, all the research I did and everything I found, Kathleen's stuff was just spot on of what I do innately, or what I've done. And now that I have the knowledge of it, I can
Yeah.
super drive it. And I can
Yeah.
go, okay, I can position myself away from the weaknesses I have. Again, as a
Yeah.
yellow, I can be kind of chaotic and crazy. And that, for the blues that are on my team, they're like, oh my God, I can't, I don't, what are we doing
Oh
today?
yeah. Yep.
So I can really rein that in to become an even better leader for them.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
once you know it, you can't unknow it. And that's
Yes.
the power, I think, of knowing your leadership style.
So that leads me into my second question, which is, as you were going through the different quadrants, the different colors, you were talking about the positive things about each of them. And not that you need to go into the negatives necessarily, but maybe like, what's something that we could look out for, or how can we use it to our benefit? Because there has to be negatives for each
Right. There is.
one, right?
Right.
I mean, I know what my negatives are. And, just trying to feel like, how do you rein that in? Can you use that to your benefit as well? Or how do
Yeah.
you deal with the negatives of your
Yeah, and
life?
again, super high level, the weaknesses side, will absolutely run through that. The really
Yeah.
cool thing of the kind of the work that we talk through in our intensive is, not only do we figure out the weaknesses, but we figure out the needs of each. And this is actually the magic that no other
Okay.
personality assessment does, is the needs of each style. And when the needs are depleted, we show up in our weaknesses. But when the needs are met, we show up in our strength. So
Ooh.
we can, we dive so deep into that within
Yeah.
the intensive that we have. And again,
Okay.
people that really like, this is so cool, you will
Yeah.
nerd out with me when we do that. But talking about the weaknesses themselves, so like optimistic connectors, the yellows, the chaos is kind of the thing I think of. Like, they're not going to be real good with the details. So one of the things, for example, we did at Simply Elegant is we partnered Lindsay, who's our sales manager, with a thoughtful
Yeah.
developer, and we put them together to run alongside each other. And we have never had more success in sales in our entire the history of our
Yeah.
organization,
Yeah.
because Lindsay can go out there and use her strength and connect. And then Kayla, who's our, you all know Kayla DePoint and the tag
Yep.
team, she comes behind Lindsay and does all of the follow-up, all of the
Yep.
thoroughness. And so with their powers combined, right? But But really the thing that would trip up Lindsay is she would be kind of all everywhere, and she wouldn't necessarily have that thorough follow-up. That's kind of the problem with the yellow. So if you're out networking and building this brand and getting everybody excited, and then nothing else happens, there's kind of got to like cap that off. So that's optimistic connectors. For driven trailblazers, I think not having enough empathy or compassion and just really being achievement oriented. A word I think that all Rads hate, including myself, is bossy, like in control, right? And there's, to some extent, it's like someone has to step up. And how do we do that in a way that nurtures and builds the relationship, doesn't ostracize? People don't feel like we're just moving through and getting things done. We're also, again, kind of thinking about being more people oriented. How do we build that relationship? So that's with Reds. Blues, thoughtful developers, they can get a little too caught up in their head. One of the things that can happen, there's a lot of, this is actually a style where hypochondria and like kind of worrying about like that vibe of like, oh, well, what if they kind of can think the worst of things, and they can get caught up in that, and it can cause inaction, which is difficult. Pair them with a red. If there's a really great amount of respect there, they're going to move forward and they're going to be a great pair. So again, thoughtful developers, if you can really, and you can see as we're talking about this, like if you position yourself as a leader, but then also like your team members together, you're unstoppable. I mean, that's what we're experiencing and seeing at Simply Elegant and out in the community. For those that have been through our intensive, like their teams are wildly high performing, and it's awesome. Katie Padilla, which I know is a coach in your, like she's killing it. I mean, she took the intensive with us, I think 3 or 4 rounds ago, and like now you look at her and you're like, holy cow, like, and she's so awesome. Yeah, she's unleashed the magic of this. And it frees up her time to be able to sit, coach with you and pour into your community. I mean, it's the power of this is so cool. And then compassionate influencers, greens, and I say this with love, stubborn. They can be stubborn. They really crave in their work lack of stress. So if there are some really hard deadlines, that's tough. So you kind of have to finesse that. So it's kind of, my husband is a green, and yes, he is stubborn. So am I. But yeah, it's kind of this, or the other thing I have found with greens, if they don't really love the work they're doing, it's hard to keep them motivated.
So I was thinking that.
Yeah, from a leadership perspective, if you have a project or you're working with a client that like isn't your jam and you're not really excited about the work, it's hard to stay connected. But when you are hyper passionate about the work that you're doing, like they will rival a red. And so, it's, again, I think that stubbornness can come out, and like, we're just going to do it my way because this is the way I'm doing it. And it's a little bit different than a red, but I would say that would be the, if we had to look at the weaknesses really quickly of all.
Just like a big kind of an overview. I feel like those are so accurate. I mean, lack of empathy for me, even in my personal life, like I have to pause and say, okay, how is this person feeling about the way that you're coming at this conversation? Like what are they feeling? Because genuinely, I don't want to say I have a lack of feeling, but I feel like that works really well in the industry for me. Like we work in a very emotional industry. And so me having such a lack of emotion is kind of like, it's facts. Let's just talk about facts. What are the truth points here?
Here's what the data tells us. Well, and I think, and you kind of move through it quickly, but I want to call out like your leadership style. Like you don't just lead people on your team. You lead your family. You lead your friend groups. You lead like your leadership style doesn't change when you turn off your laptop. It is who you are, and it's how you show up in every relationship in your life. And so I think having and being able to observe and understand where we fall and what our style is, that can give us so much insight in building great relationships. And so Brandee, I love that you said that because it's so true. It's not like Brandee's a red here, but then a green over here. You're not this driven whatever person, and then this like, it just doesn't work that way. And it's awesome because then again, we can see that, and you're going to probably, as Brandee and I have been having this conversation, you're like, oh, yep, my best friend is this. Oh, yep, my whoever is this. Like it's so cool because what you're doing is you're actually able to understand on a deep level who they are without trying to get like, Yeah, I think a lot of the times when you're building relationships, especially as a leader, you're like, who are they? How do I show up?
Yeah.
How will they make decisions? How do I motivate them? But like this unlocks that secret on how to do it. And again, it's
So
just
much of
so
it.
powerful when you understand yours because
Yeah.
you can show up intentionally.
Yeah.
And that's the magic right there.
100%. I mean, I cannot say enough about understanding this leadership style and who you are. And Ash, real quick, I wanted to point out that you're wearing all the colors, right? Because
Yes, this should be
you
Meg
guys,
though. Meg's actually the unicorn.
that
So
is true.
if you're at Wedding MBA, come find me. We're giving these out because the blues, thoughtful developers, greens, compassionate influencers, yellows, optimistic connectors, red, trailblazers. Like, come find us because what I think would be really fun. How cool would this be? Is if a person you don't even know, a stranger, you see them and you're like, oh, I know about them. Like, I understand who they are. How cool
Yes,
would that be? And then
I
obviously
know.
like connecting over, like I'm a red too. We have so many people that did
Yeah.
that at the summit. That was so much
Oh,
fun.
so
Come
many
find
people
us.
did that at the summit. And so, yeah, if you're listening to this and you're at Wedding MBA, then please go find Ashley, find the abundance group. They're on the show floor. If you aren't at Wedding MBA, you can actually take the quiz online, right, Ashley, to
Yep.
find out what you are. So, how can they do that?
Yeah, super easy. Just go to our website, theabundance.group, and then
Okay.
there's just /quiz.
Okay.
The other thing, if you're driving or whatever and you didn't write that down, just DM me. We're at the abundance
Yeah.
group. Come hang out, and then we'll get you the link. Super easy.
Yeah. And we'll make sure it's in the show notes below as well. I mean, what was really fun for me, my middle daughter really would love to be in this industry when she grows up. She's 14, so she worked at the summit with us this year, and she sat through Ashley's session, and she did not stop talking about it for at least a week. She was just like, "Mom, it was like so cool because now I know what her sisters like." For her, it was like, "I know what
Mhm.
my sisters are, and I know what dad is, and I want to make them all take the quiz." And she came home and did Ashley's presentation
I
for
died when you were texting me pictures of this. I was like, my girl, I freaking love it.
it
It was
was
such a cool moment. Yeah.
amazing because it really does help you. For her, what I thought was interesting is that it, like Ashley said, it's not just you as a leader. Like she's not obviously a business owner yet, but as a human, she was like, I feel like I understand my little sister so much more.
Mhm.
And there's so much value in being able to understand what your strengths and your weaknesses are and
Mhm.
what their strengths and their weaknesses are and be able to really have a better just relationship because of that. So I really want you guys to take the quiz. If you, like we said, if you're at Wedding MBA, go to Ashley's booth.
Come
She's got
find
it
me.
all there. If you're not at Wedding MBA, you're not missing out on anything. I promise you. Ashley's got the quiz on
Mhm.
her website. We'll put the link in the show notes. And then Ash, you're actually going to be digging into a little bit more about how to build a high performing team, right? Soon.
Mhm.
Can you tell us about
Yeah.
that?
November 14th,
Okay.
11 a.m. Central Time. I'm doing really great training around building a trustworthy, dependable, high performance team. I'm kind of
Okay.
pulling back the curtain on how I did it. And
Yeah.
it's this amazing, kind of well kept secret that is like
Yeah.
locked. And I was like, oh, I need to share this with my friends. And we talked a little bit about leadership styles today, but that's only a part of the equation. And again, we don't have an hour and a half to divulge, go through everything on your podcast.
Right.
But really, I built this team without, spending hundreds and hundreds of hours training people, and I
Mhm.
didn't lose the brand integrity. And I think
Yeah.
those are the two things when people are either thinking about starting a team or have started to build a team and they're feeling a little nervous, like, is this really how I should scale? I want you to come. I want you to come hang out because, again, I kind of pull back the curtain and I talk about how we do it at Simply Elegant and how we teach everybody to do it at the Abundance Group. And I went over the presentation with Kayla this morning and she was like, Ash, she goes, your last training was really good, but oh my gosh, like this is 10 times better. And I was like, yes, I think that's a compliment. I'm going to take it as a compliment because like I really, again, y'all know my passion. You know my passion for this. You know my passion for getting entrepreneurs out of the solopreneur valley, right? Like I want you to move through it. And again, I always say, you can only raise your prices so much. You can only market, so much. Really, when you build a team, your ceiling of revenue becomes limitless.
Right. Huge.
So this is the way, I believe very deeply, to get entrepreneurs to have the lifestyle freedom, to have the time freedom, and the financial freedom that I think we all wanted when we came into being a business owner. So come hang out with me. I'm very jacked. The content's going to be so fun. I've never taught it before. But yeah, it'll be November 14th at 11 a.m. Central Time.
Okay, cool. So we're going to put the link in the show notes as well. Y'all don't miss this training. It's honestly, Ashley has this incredible team. And like she said, I mean, one of the coaches for my own program, y'all know Katie Padilla. She is a rock star. She's a coach on my inside of my program to help more wedding pros to build a profitable business. And she went through Ashley's intensive too. And the only way that I'm able to say, hey, Katie, can you come help coach inside my program is because I know her team is rocking and rolling and is running her very successful wedding business while she can step away and start yet another revenue stream with me. So if just don't miss the training. Don't miss the training. The link is in the show notes below. Click the link. I really want you guys to learn from Ashley how to build that high performance team. It's going to be killer. So November 14th, Ash, this was amazing as always. So thank you so much for being here. And you guys make sure that you go register for the training next week.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. Brandee, thanks so much for having me.